You need to stop looking for the best extracurricular. Hi everybody, my name is Joaquin Ravello. I got accepted into the UPenn MNT program, which is the dual degree between the Wharton School of Business and Penn Engineering. And I'm going to be explaining in this video why you need to stop looking for the best extracurricular. All right, this video comes from a comment I got or a question not too long ago asking, how do I find the best extracurricular? All right, here's my answer. The answer is that there is no best extracurricular. In fact, I want you to think of it this way. All right. First of all, you need to understand that there is no basic strategy. There is no secret hack or magical sauce or thing that you could do that'll help you get into a top university. That does not exist. Instead, the one thing, right, what I like to call the wow factor, the one thing that stands out in your extracurriculars that gives you that advantage over other applicants is different depending on each person. And the thing is that one thing can be anything, any discipline, any objective in anything in any period of life can be turned into your one thing. And with the correct set of strategies, you can convert literally anything into that one thing that you then utilize to get into your top university. Okay, cool. So understand that anything can become an impressive wow factor. And this comes down to understanding that universities, what they're really looking for is not a well-rounded class. Or excuse me, it's not a well-rounded student, but it's a well-rounded class. They want a university that contains, or a class, graduating class that contains the best of people in separate fields corresponding to that degree. For example, they want the best person who's going to be the best supply chain manager, and then the other best person who's going to be the best at the education industry, then entertainment, or people who are just really niche but extraordinarily good at one thing, or one attribute, one skill, and one thing to be more precise. So understand that that one thing depends on, number one, each person. And the way in which you represent that one thing really depends on the individual and can be almost anything. All right. So what I want you to do, and as you know, I like to jump right into action points with all of this. Start off, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more in depth, but start off by identifying what are the two words you want the university to identify you as, right? If someone was to read your application and look back through your application and see everything that you're doing on all your extracurriculars, all of your essays, recommendation letters, whatever it may be, would they be able to identify two words or one or two words that describe you? All right, for instance, if they were to look at my application, they would see education and tech and entrepreneurship if you were to do three, but education, tech, entrepreneurship. In other words, I was focusing in on education. How do I make that strong with technology, and how can I market that, bring it into market, and ultimately end up creating an entrepreneurial venture with that. That's what I use. Those were my three words. And the thing is, I was very clear on those three words a few years before I applied. So if you don't know what those few words are, take a minute, write those down, identify what they are. And here's the number two, your extracurricular needs to in some way reinforce those few words. And here's where the actual extracurricular you do doesn't necessarily matter. And the reason why it doesn't necessarily matter, at least for 90 to 95% of cases, is that you can do any extracurricular. Do it to such a degree of excellence. Do it extremely well, become the best in the world, whatever you want to call it. Just do it very, very well, and then have that somehow tie into those three words. And as long as that extracurricular, you change it, you package it, maybe you express it in an essay, whatever the case may be, if you are to somehow turn that extracurricular, wrap it up, and have that point towards those three words that you described, that is ultimately the most effective route. So notice, this does not require you to focus in or find, this does not require you to find some sort of extracurricular that corresponds to that is only identified to that, right? Like a lot of people, for instance, who want to get into the MNT program, they come to me and they ask, what exactly do you need? Like what exact extracurriculars do you need? And I can tell you mine, and I will in a future video. But the exact extracurriculars you need do not matter. As long as the extracurriculars you're working on right now somehow support those main three words. And I want to emphasize this word right here. It doesn't matter what you do, but it matters the extent to which you do it, right? The thing that matters the most is how good, how proficient are you at that one thing? And this became very clear to me when I was watching the Masters of Golf in 2019. What surprised me the most is the following. When, I believe it was Tiger Woods who won, when Tiger Woods ended up winning, he won by maybe 1 or 2 points compared to the second place. And then second place, third place, all the way to the 10th place. And if you look at that leaderboard, you see that the point difference between the first and the 10th place is basically nothing. However, the reward difference between the first and 10th place is huge, right? The 10th place maybe makes only 1/100th of the total rewards that the first place gets, right? Because if you're first place, not only do you win the actual prize cash, but you also get all the extra attention that goes into that victory, right? I remember, was it Tiger Woods? He ended up rejecting a deal to go play in Saudi Arabia for what I believe was a few $100 million. So that is only possible when you become so good at that one thing that you become first place. And notice that the difference between like the best in the world and 10th place, which is basically the best in the world as well, but just a little bit behind, right? Only 10 spots behind. The difference between the first place and the 10th place is basically nothing. But the difference in results is extraordinary. And this is why, if you've seen any of my other videos, you see I talk about the concept that success is not linear, right? Instead, it's exponential, meaning you keep doing the consistent work, and then eventually you're going to reach a point where you're so damn good at what you're doing that gives you huge leverage over everyone else. That gives you a huge chasm of reward, not necessarily because you're that much better, right? You didn't go from 1 to 100% better over a few days, especially at the end of your career, but instead you ended up beating everyone else. That gave you the opportunity for which to become first, and then the difference in first from 10th place are huge payout results. All right, so how exactly does that apply to your own university endeavors? Understand that the university is looking for those people at the top, right? It's looking for the first place, second place, the people at the top. All right, and the difference between the person at the top and the person just below the top, right? Person in first place and person in 10th place is almost nothing. Which means that in order for you to truly excel at your university admissions, get into your dream university, whatever you want to call it, you need to make sure that your wow factor, right, your extracurricular, is really up to par. It needs to be absolutely extraordinary. And that's really the world we live in right now, right? With the acceptance rates and everything else, it needs to be absolutely extraordinary. It's not enough to be, if all your extracurriculars are below extraordinary, that is not enough. And the reason why that's not enough, again, remember, the universities want the best at that certain discipline, and somehow that needs to support those three words. And remember this as well, most students that I work with, the biggest problem that they have, especially, and again, I work with mainly ambitious students. If you're that type of student, I'd love to work with you. You can go to grizzlylead.com. But one of the biggest things that I see with these ambitious students is that they're trying to do too much. They have hundreds of different things on their schedule, dozens of extracurriculars, projects that they're working on, right? Their priority list is just a jumbled mess of more than 8, 9, or 10 things. And the biggest thing I tell students like that to do, that often always solves their problems, is by cutting down the things that don't matter. All right, we talked about this, I believe it was in another video, and if you want, you can check that one out. And you can actually use the code, I believe, if you do Grizzly Grind 28, so capital G, Grizzly, capital G, Grind 28. If you type that into the Easter egg code down below, you get a chart that actually represents this. The biggest thing you need to remember is that not all tasks will contribute equally to your university admission success. Not all extracurricular activities will contribute equally to your university success. There are certain extracurriculars that you do that will have a larger impact on representing yourself to the admission officer. And again, we talk about those three words. Which extracurricular activities represent those words the most? And then make those extracurriculars the best. Make those exceptional. Make those so you can reach the first place overall. All right, and then no secret sauce. Ultimately, you can also express that in your essay, right? There's certain extracurricular activities that you might do that create excellent essays. That's amazing because that builds up your character and that persona around those three words. So understand that, again, tasks are distributed non-equally. So there are certain tasks that will give you much more. And then also understand the Pareto principle at play here, which means that with a large enough sample set, the values will converge, right? If you've ever seen a convergent series, they will go towards a value such that 80% of your university success is going to come from 20% of the activities you do. I'll say that again, 80% of your university admission success comes from 20% of the activities you do. So in your Common App, that means that there are 2 activities that are going to contribute to 80% of your university admission success. That's just how it is. All right. So accept that, become excellent at those things, show proficiency in that, and that'll tear you apart from everyone else who's trying to compete, who's so good at so many things that the university admission officers, when they look at their application, they are unable to carefully and effectively evaluate who they are, what they'll represent, and what they're going to become the best in the world at, right? They miss those 3 words. So ultimately, the title of this video was stop looking for the best extracurricular, okay? Stop looking for, or stop asking yourself what can be the best thing. The truth is you can turn anything, any extracurricular, if you do it with such a degree of exceptionalism and you tweak it in such a way that it supports your character, you can turn that into an amazing essay. You can turn that into an exceptional thing on your extracurriculars, on your Common App list, whatever you want to show that. And then that can support your character, which increases the likelihood of you getting accepted. All right, but stop. And the reason why I'm saying stop looking for more extracurriculars is that most students, especially if you're watching this video, you're an ambitious student. Most students who are ambitious, they already have 10, 15, 20 extracurriculars that they're working on, or things or projects that they've worked on in the past. Looking for more is not the solution. I'll say that again. Looking for more extracurriculars is not the solution. And that's at least the way I feel like the question is presented, right? What more can I do? What other things should I be doing? Stop trying to do more things. All right, stop trying to do more things. When I finished, and this is one of my, I don't want to say regrets because I don't. I have a few regrets, but not really. Something I would have changed in the past would be to stop doing a lot of the extracurriculars I did, right? I did more than, I believe it was like 17 or something. And I only fit 10 of them on the Common App anyway. So 7 of those, just, I burned my time. I could be spending, utilizing, and focusing on the other ones. Luckily, I still got into my top university, so that's why I don't have the regrets. However, my time could have been better spent had I not allocated time towards those 7 that weren't as essential. So most students, when they ask for more, they're, instead of looking back and reflecting upon their past experiences and trying to improve the work they've already done, they instead take another route of trying to start something new. And this actually comes up a lot in entrepreneurship, where you have a business, maybe it's not doing as well, maybe it's stagnated, maybe it requires a lot of work for you to continue moving. And instead of doing that work, the easier path and the most exciting path is to start something new, is to go ahead and start a new business. However, that's exactly what you shouldn't be doing in these last few years, in these last few months, in these last few weeks before the university admissions process comes to an end. All right, focus in on what matters, build up those 3 character traits, or 2 or 1, whatever you want to call them, become excellent in that, and you'll experience that university admission success. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, if you're interested at all in hearing more advice on the IB, university, whatever you want to call it, check it out in my YouTube channel down below. And let me know down below in the comments or at my email, JqR@warden.upenn.edu. If you have any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to help. And until next time, stay productive. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.